got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
The world of sports never sleeps, and neither do we. Welcome to CBS Sports HQ Morning Buzz, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. You can catch up on the latest storylines and highlights with expert analysis to get you dialed in. So grab your coffee and kickstart your day off right. With Morning Buzz only on CBS Sports HQ.
Original musical ever is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
I'm just giving the people what they want.
Better Man absolutely sizzles from start to finish. Whoa! Better Man now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Oh, it's game day. It's big time. Hello and welcome to Game Day Scoreboard. Hakeem Dermish here with Adam Finkelstein, Hunter Dickinson, Tim Doyle. It is a big night in college basketball. The Sweet 16 tipping off tonight, and Florida, one of a record 7 teams from the SEC into the Sweet 16. The super athletic Gators clashing with Derek Queen and the Crab 5 from Maryland. Of course, Maryland's coming off the buzzer beater win. Was it a travel? Was it not a travel? Doesn't really matter. They're into the Sweet 16. Hunter, the only college basketball player to also be a college basketball analyst currently right now here with us in studio. Hunter, you look at both these rosters. You look at Florida, super long, super athletic. You look at Maryland's roster, and they are talented 1 through 5. Only set of starters that are averaging more than 12 per game this tournament. What stands out to you about these rosters when you look at them?
Yeah, I would say, the rosters are built, very differently. Florida, I think, has a lot of depth, and I think that's something that really makes them special. And then, like you said, Maryland's very top-heavy. They play 5 guys the majority of the minutes. But it works out for them. It works out for both of the teams, and that's why they're both in the Sweet 16.
Tim, when you look at these rosters and you have to point out one player, who's the player you're watching for in tonight's game?
Yeah, it's crazy that this guy started his career at Iona. Ironic enough.
Stealing my stuff already. We haven't been on for a minute yet.
Here we go. Is he the most important player of the game?
Ask Danny Hurley. We'd be talking about UConn if it weren't for Walter Clayton.
And made some amazing shots in that game. That was a game that UConn had in its hands. What makes Walter Clayton amazing? Well, he can do a little bit of everything. And in the tournament, he's been even better. I love when he goes to his right, Adam, and he shoots off the dribble from 3. A lot of right-handed players, they like going left and shooting right. He goes right and then shoots right. What a great decision maker. There's one of the examples right there. He made some enormous shots against UConn. The difference for me, Adam, in this game, I think Florida's guards aren't exponentially better than Maryland's guards, but they're better than Maryland's guards, and that's going to be the difference here.
2 years ago, Walter Clayton, right down the street at Iona. Everybody says he's just going to follow Pitino to St. John's. Nobody even bothered to try and recruit him. Florida said, you know what? He's from Florida. Let's take a shot at him. And you know what? He's a Gator. Not only is he a Gator, he's one of the best guards in the country. True shot maker. And this year, he's turned into more of a lead guard. His assists are up. His turnovers are down. Much more complete player than we saw. And as I said, the big shot-making ability is what got them here.
I heard Rick try to get him at St. John's. I heard Rick let him go to Florida. He tried to get him and actually helped his negotiation. Good for Walter Clayton. He's had 3 games so far with 20-plus points. Vernon Maxwell, Udonis Haslem, some big names there, Hakeem.
Indeed, very talented players there, Udonis Haslem and Vernon Maxwell, and he's right there in the mix with 20-point tournament games. Look, Hunter, when you look at this team, you talked about the roster, how talented both of them are. Who's the player for you? They're both going Walter Clayton Jr., their leading scorer. Who you got your eye on?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Maryland guards, Jacoby Gillespie and Rodney Rice. I think, like he said, the Florida guards probably are a little bit better. But, for Maryland to win this game, the guards are going to have to pull their slack. Derek Queen and Julian Reese are obviously going to, do what they do. But it's going to be up to Rodney Rice and I feel like Jacoby Gillespie to be able to kind of counterbalance what Clayton, Martin, and Richardson are going to do out there.
Guard play always wins in March. That's something that Tim Doyle always says and preaches here on CBS Sports HQ. Guard play is huge.
I want to hear a Derek Queen breakdown. If you were guarding him, how would you match up with a guy that could put the ball on the floor, could shoot, What makes him so tough?
It is tough because he's able to do a lot of different things. I mean, he can shoot, like you said, put it down on the floor, and then if you're going to put a smaller guy on him, post him up. I think it's something where you got to try to play under him and try to speed him up. He really likes to play at his own pace. You see him out there almost kind of in slow motion sometimes, but he does a really good job of playing at his own pace. And I think if you're going to be Florida out there, try to speed him up and try to get him in some turnovers, especially since he's a freshman.
Who would you rather guard, Reese or him?
I've guarded Julian a couple times, you know, playing back in my Big Ten days, and so I'd probably guard him because I feel like I know him a little bit more. I haven't scouted Derek Queen as much, so I'd probably say Julian Reese.
Derek Queen's an amazing talent. I thought, Adam, he was more of a Zach Randolph when I saw him in high school. I hosted a game with him and Cooper Flagg, and maybe the greatest high school team ever.
Got my vote.
And now he's morphing a little bit more into an Antoine Walker. The way he's putting the ball on the floor, he's got a little wiggle in his game.
When you're a skilled playmaking big and you come up in an NBA era with the Joker, that's who you're compared to. It's not fair, but that's who everybody compared him to in high school because he was a wider body kid. He really improved his conditioning when he got to Maryland, and he could play make. He's got terrific hands. He can really pass. I actually think that's the part of his game that hasn't been on full display this year at Maryland, and it is going to come to the forefront even more once he gets to the NBA.
I think a guy we haven't mentioned is Alex Condon. I mean, this guy is long, athletic. He can score as well. He's also going to be a problem for Maryland tonight. Maryland coming off a buzzer beater. Florida, a grind-out win over UConn. Hunter, who do you like to advance to the Elite Eight, the Terps or the Gators?
I like the Gators. I think they're the best team in the country right now, and I like them to, you know, take this next step.
He's more confident than I am. Now, I have Florida winning it all, so obviously I have them winning this game, but Maryland was a team that coming into the tournament, I was trying to build a case for them. I would have built the best case in the world for them if they were in Auburn's region. But this is like a really bad matchup. I would not be surprised if Maryland went out and won that game. I think the way Hunter said, the way Florida is clicking, all guards, Adam, that started in mid-majors and now they're older. I always talk about how you make your sauce, right? Kansas, their sauce, not so sure. But Florida, they had a sauce, right, with older guards and guys that have been around the block, and it's worked out. I like their sauce. I think they somehow figure out a way. Would not be surprised if Maryland won this game, but I like Florida.
I'm going to roll with that analogy, okay? Maryland's sauce, they've only got one ingredient. Florida's sauce, they got different things. They can win with bigs. They've got 4 starting caliber bigs. They have arguably the best backcourt in the country, 3 guys who are really great. We haven't even talked about Elijah Martin yet, a guy who's been to a Final Four, terrific defender. And the other thing, they play with a ton of pace, so they can beat you.
Did you say pay with a ton of pace? Very good. Hunter caught that as well.
Freudian slip.
Derek Queen said in the postgame, Coach Kevin Willard, he pays us.
Yeah, it's part of the game.
That third step was free, though.
Yes, it was.
So that's the thing with Florida. They can beat you in different ways. I'll tell you this, though. The key to this game, tempo. If it's in the 80s, Florida wins. If it's in the 60s, Maryland wins.
Plus, you got to make your free throws if you're Florida because they struggle making free throws late against UConn, and Maryland going to knock them down. Maryland chasing its first Elite Eight appearance since winning the 2002 national title. Florida looking to reach the Elite Eight for the first time since 2017. Of course, we will have post-game analysis from this one and live reaction as well right here on CBS Sports HQ. Coming up, Caleb Love clashing with Duke once again, looking to light up the Blue Devils like he did in the 2022 Final Four. Plus, Coach Cal and Arkansas have gone from 0-5 in the SEC to the Sweet 16. Does the Razorbacks run end tonight against the Red Raiders? We'll break it down next on Game Day Scoreboard. here on CBS Sports HQ. Hakeem Dermish here with Hunter Dickinson, Tim Doyle, Adam Finkelstein. Rematch from earlier in the season takes us to the East region. Duke beat Arizona in November, trying to beat him when it matters most in March. Caleb Love, 8 points in that game. But take you back 3 years ago, Love lit up the Blue Devils for 28 points in the Final Four in Coach K's final game. Hunter, you've played against Caleb twice this season. For the most part, you kept him in check. What do you like, though, about his game right now?
I think his shot-making ability is probably his best aspect. I mean, he's known as a volume scorer and a volume shooter, and that's something that they're really going to need if they're going to beat Duke, is him to go off and have one of his, Caleb Love primetime performances.
Had 28 in their last game, that Oregon.
What did it say on the whiteboard?
They were down by 15.
When you went into the locker room, it said Love and then his number. What was the scouting report? It's over. You can tell us now.
It was pretty much, when he walks into the gym, he kind of likes, any shot he sees. So, when he gets the ball across half court, you got to guard him because he's willing to take any shot, and that's something you got to respect.
That's fair.
What did they write on the whiteboard when you were playing?
Leave him open.
Okay.
Don't be fooled by his looks. He can't shoot. Yeah, so that was the, sometimes I used to get stereotyped on the floor, which is unfair. And I did not like that. Everyone goes, shooter, shooter. I was a terrible shooter. I was an amazing passer. This kid needs to be out of this world in this game. He is so erratic that he could be. Like, he could have 34 in this game, and it would only be like, well, this is what he does. He takes terrible shots. Sometimes they go in, and then he gets rolling. When he gets in that rhythm, so far in the tournament, he's 52% from the field, 64% from three. And then he could have a game today, Adam, where he goes 3 of 14, and we go, up. That's Caleb Love. He's played in 173 games. He's scored 2,700 points. For them to be competitive in this game, he has to go for at least 25.
Yeah, I agree, and I hate to simplify it to this extent, but he really needs to go nuclear in this game because otherwise it's like, how does Arizona score? We know they've got to rebound. We know they've got to try and get out in transition. Listen, John Shire has said it. He said we're going to slow this game down, but if the game is played in the half court, I don't know how Arizona scores unless Caleb Love goes on a heater.
He went on a heater against Arizona, 33, dropped in 33. So you have the recipe, you have the sauce, as Tim would like to say, to figure out how to beat Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, I would compare Caleb Love to kind of like Bitcoin in a sense. I mean, he's, you're going to see the highest of highs and the lowest of lows from him. But
do you remember this game? What was working?
I was really feeling it. When I hit a couple mid-range shots, and there were tougher shots to end the shot clock, and once I hit those, I kind of knew that it was going to be a good night for me, and just tried to stay aggressive as much as I could during that game because I knew my teammates were going to need it.
Caleb Love's the other star in this game. The main star is Cooper Flagg. Tim, what do you expect to see from Flagg tonight?
I was shocked he played in the 1-versus-16 game.
Why? Don't you want to get the rust off?
I was shocked. The risk reward of it, hey, it ended up working out. When I ran, I talked about the high school game. He played in my high school game last year on Long Island. I left there and I went right to the All-Star game in Indianapolis. And I told Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal, I just watched a Hall of Famer play. And they go, oh, you're just saying that because he's white. I go, no, I'm not, guys. I'm saying that because this guy has such a high basketball IQ. He has a tremendous motor. His jump shot is a work in progress, but it goes in a lot. I'm so impressed with the intellect. To think that he started the season, he was 17 years old. How old are you?
24.
Okay. So Hunter was 7 years older than him when
played
they
against
started.
each
I know,
other.
but my point is, like, 17 years old.
Yeah.
I was getting like a corsage on my hand.
That's
I was
true.
going to a prom. Like, the guy's an amazing talent. If you've not seen him play, he's must-see TV. He's going to be the first pick in the draft. I think he's going to be the future face of the NBA. What makes him great is he's not going to have 35 points in this game. Adam, he's going to have 18 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, a block. Like, he just does so many stat-stuffing, winning things. Everything that's wrong about the NBA, he's right about basketball. This kid's unbelievable.
I think it was a boutonniere that he would have gotten, not a corsage.
I'm
not going to say what he wore. I wore a boutonniere.
Don't assume. Don't assume.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Same hanky.
Right.
Yeah, Cooper Flagg is this. He is the most versatile player in the country, and if he wins Player of the Year and goes on to be the first pick in the draft, it'll be just the 3rd time in history. Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson. If he wins the NCAA championship and does that, it'll just be him and AD in that category. He doesn't have a bad game. He has great games, but even his bad games, to your point, Tim, are when he scores 15 points, gets 4 assists, 8 rebounds, because he does so many other things than score the basketball. Actually, the things that he's exceeded expectations on this season at Duke are his self-creation and his shooting. He's shooting over 40% from the three-point line in ACC play, and nobody, including myself, was expecting that.
Kansas, one of the few teams to beat Duke this season, happened earlier in the season. It was one of your signature wins of the year. How did you scout him?
Yeah, I mean, both these guys are right. I think what makes him a really good basketball player is his scoring ability, but what makes him really special is everything else. Like Tim said, I mean, he's going to have a couple blocks, a couple steals, a couple rebounds, a couple assists. I mean, he's a stat sheet stuffer, and he's, you know, that's probably the reason why he's so special is he just does so many things out there. So like Adam said, it's hard for him to have a bad game.
Duke is the first team ever to lead all Sweet 16 teams in points scored and points allowed. Is anyone here picking Arizona to pull off the upset? Anybody? Nobody's ever shaking their
Sure not.
So then, okay, so how does Duke move along, Tim?
Well, Proctor's been shooting out of this world in this tournament. Do you have his percentages in front of you? Because he's made like over 10 threes so far in the first two games.
Correct.
And, you know, the guy's been lights out to start. Knippel's another guy who can put the ball on the floor. Malawach understands his role. It's so hard to find teams, no offense, Hunter, where everyone understands their role. This team understands their role. I watched you guys at the end of the year. I was still trying to figure out what was going on there, but that's, you know, we can.
You're not the only one. I asked him about it.
We can get a beer afterwards, and we can dive, maybe a shot or something. We can dive into the role. They have amazing role definition. It's hard to find. It really is. It's hard to groom the guys like that, and it's because when your best player is your most unselfish player, everybody else kind of falls in line. So this is an amazing team. I would love to see Arizona just for like, you know, for fun's sake, make shots and keep this game competitive. You know, they're going to need Caleb Love to have a career game and shoot lights out from three.
The other thing Arizona needs to do is get off to a good start and remember, Duke starts 3 freshmen, and they have, Hunter, you know this, they got tight late in your game, right? They made mistakes late in that game. The challenge to Duke's run to a potential national championship is going to be, can they execute in a late game situation? So if you're Arizona or whoever it may be on Saturday, your goal is to put them in those situations and see if those 18-year-olds get a little nervous.
Who's the best team in your eyes? Before this tournament started, you said it was who?
Florida. You know, early on in the year.
Not Duke.
No. Early on in the year, I had really no idea about Florida. Like I thought they were a middle-level pack team, but then I watched them against Texas A&M at home. Then I watched them versus Alabama, and I said, this is the best team in the country. Like, they're deep.
Better than this team here, Duke.
I think the experience is really going to help them. You know, like Adam said, unfortunately for me, I wasn't watching the game. I had to watch the game in the locker room, the end of the Duke game. But, I mean, it is tough. Like, March Madness is a different deal when it comes to especially the Sweet 16 and later. And it can be tough for players who have never experienced it before. And so a guy like Martin, who has Final Four experience, like we talked about, that'll be super huge for a Florida team that is poised for a deep run here.
Duke could be meeting Florida in the national championship.
That's my national championship.
Arizona standing in the way right now for Duke, looking for its first Elite Eight since 2015. Duke looking to make its second straight Elite Eight appearance. And they'll get going later tonight. The late game takes us back to San Francisco. Coach Cal in Arkansas taking on Texas Tech. Hunter, you and Kansas lost a close game to the Red Raiders end of the season. What are the Razorbacks up against? Because this Texas Tech team is very good. They get up and down the floor, averaging 81 points per game. You got JT Toppin, you got Darian Williams. They're a really, really good team. There's a reason why they're here.
Yeah, I think, you know, what it's going to take for Arkansas is to be able to guard the three-point line. Texas Tech does such a great job of spreading you out and really, you know, kind of making you pick your poison. Are you going to let JT Toppin play one-on-one on the block? Or are you going to let Darian Williams play one-on-one on the block? Or are you going to, you know, allow these guards, you know, to really try to, you know, be able to play one-on-one? I think when it comes down to it, I think Arkansas has got to live with the tough twos and just not let Texas Tech go off from the three-point line, because that's really what, you know, separates them and has them, you know, a really dangerous team.
One player update, star forward Adu Thiero, who missed the last 8 games with a knee injury, will be available tonight, expected to play about 12 to 15 minutes, Tim. He's certainly an impact player. Who's the player you're watching for in this matchup?
He's going to help because you're going to probably want to rotate bodies on JT Toppin, who's shooting 81% over the first 2 games of this tournament. He has to be the player to watch. Now, was it just too much athleticism against Drake? Maybe so. They dominated points in the paint that game. They absolutely dominated the rebounds. I thought Drake was going to be competitive. They were not. This is a kid, Adam, that transferred at the last hour, the midnight hour, and ends up in an amazing situation. I've always loved Grant McCasland. I was kind of waiting for him to get a big job at North Texas. He was very selective in what job he wanted. He's gone to Texas Tech, and they've won at a high level. I'm comfortable saying this. Arkansas is fortunate that St. John's had its worst shooting game of the year. They made 2 threes. They couldn't make a shot. We talked about it all year at St. John's. They couldn't shoot. They struggled from the 3. Well, that was the game. I think they're fortunate to be in this situation. I love Cal. I think he's in big trouble tonight.
I mean, you already can't go into the state of Mississippi. Now we're pushing the border on that. And
He's not an SEC guy, Big Ten guy.
Let's just say this. I think the challenge for Arkansas is going to be incorporating Adu back into the lineup. Remember, they had to do this with Boogie Flan, too. Those were their top 2 players to start this season. Then they both get injured, and Arkansas goes on a run because different roles get redefined. The freshmen are Billy Richmond, Kevin Knox, Zvonimir Visic. Those guys are all stepping up. How do you incorporate those 2 back into the flow and not disrupt things? I don't think they have any choice because they were so shorthanded, but that's a bigger challenge than we're talking about here. And I think the bottom line here is Texas Tech, they have one of the most sophisticated offensive systems in the country. Top 5. They've got great shooting. They shoot a ton of threes. Hunter, you and I were talking about this off camera. We were talking about JT Toppin. You said, I think he's almost, and I'm paraphrasing you a little bit, it's almost a little bit of a decoy because Williams is maybe the first domino there. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, JT Toppin is an amazing basketball player, but Darion Williams, I think, is, a matchup nightmare for teams. You can't put a small guy on him because he'll back you down from the 3-point line. And then you can't put a big guy on him because they do so many ball screens with him with the pick and pop, and he's such a good shooter that it really puts you in a tough scenario and allows JT Toppin to get so much one-on-one coverage.
JT Toppin, Darion Williams, first Texas Tech duo ever with 25-plus points in a tournament game. Did that against Drake. We're going to keep it going against Arkansas, who went from 0-5 in SEC play to the Sweet 16. Hunter, does the Razorbacks run end tonight against the Red Raiders?
I think so. Tim said they were fortunate that St. John's had a terrible shooting night. I'll up you and say they're fortunate Kansas big man had a bad game and played one of the worst games of his career in the first round, or else
it's okay. Let it out.
Or else the Jayhawks might still be playing. But
you're in a safe place.
I think it'll be tough for Arkansas. They're going to have to hit at least 8 threes, I think, for them to win this game because Texas Tech is going to shoot 40. So I think Arkansas is going to have to guard the 3-point line, but also hit some threes tonight for them to have a chance.
They only made 2 against St. John's. That was a weird game. They both only made 2. But you know what that was? That was a brawl.
Yep.
Like, that was one of those games that's why I don't play basketball anymore because that was like a street fight. And I think this game's going to be pretty similar to that, Adam. I think both these teams have, high energy, big-time athletes. And I think Arkansas is going to attempt to kind of muddy this up. And I'm curious to see if Grant McCasland goes to that zone. You guys went to the zone. They didn't know what to do. You guys went to the 3 zone. They look like they never played basketball, Arkansas. Now, St. John's didn't do that. I wonder if Texas Tech throws that wrinkle in because they looked that bad against Kansas' zone, Arkansas did. I think Texas Tech wins this game by 8 or more.
Yeah, I think so, too. And I think the other point here is the math is in Texas Tech's favor. With the 3-point shooting that Hunter was talking about, you start to talk about points per possession. That's the way a lot of coaches talk these days. The shot distribution chart of Arkansas versus Texas Tech is a big advantage for Tech. So I'm with you, Tim. I think Tech moves on.
All right, we're all across the board here. Texas Tech looking for its third Elite 8 appearance in program history. That game, the late game, coming up tonight on TBS, and you can check out our full coverage on CBS Sports HQ. Sweet 16 appearance in the last 5 seasons for Arkansas, their 4th. John Calipari would be the first head coach to lead 4 programs to the Elite 8 if he can get Arkansas past Texas Tech. But the Red Raiders, they're expected to win this game. 10:09 Eastern time is the tip from San Francisco. Coming up, we're closing in on tip-off for our first Sweet 16 game tonight. BYU against Alabama in a game where it could be the first to 90 points next on Game Day Scoreboard. Back here on CBS Sports HQ, Hakeem Dermott, Adam Finkelstein, Hunter Dickinson, Tim Doyle getting you set for tip-off our first Sweet 16 game of the night. Two elite offenses going head-to-head in Newark. Could be the first to 90 points. Hunter, you saw BYU firsthand, but they put up 91 points on your Jayhawks. Who's the player who stands out to you on Kevin Young's roster?
Yeah, you said first to 90. I think it might be first to 100.
Yeah.
This game is going to be high scoring, almost like an NBA game, I think. And it'll be tough for Alabama because this is kind of what BYU wants. They want to be in this kind of high scoring game. And I think, for BYU, they're led by Richie Saunders. He's a really good player. They got a lot of shooting. But in this game, I think it'll be Demon. I mean, he's, start the year, he was probably a projected top 10 pick. Had some struggles early on, but if he has a really good game, I think that just makes them so much more explosive, and I think it'll really lead them to a victory.
Tim's smiling over there. He's got something.
You know why?
Yegor.
What's his first name?
Yegor Demon.
Didn't you think it was Igor?
I thought it was Igor.
Yeah, I thought it was Igor.
It's okay. That's what I'm here for.
What is it?
Yegor.
Yegor?
Yegor Demon.
It's the international.
Yeah, I mean, kids don't wake up and say, sometimes I dream that he is me, like Igor. No, I don't think that commercial's going to go in this direction.
Like Yegor.
Whatever.
It would rhyme with
Hunter
that.
and I
think that
until he makes it to the NBA. We'll learn his name once he makes it to the NBA. Guy was awesome last game, 11 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. He could do a little bit of everything. There's Grant Nelson there, wonderful athlete, a transfer in. Maybe that's going to be the matchup of these two guys, but you put the ball on the floor, he can shoot the three. He's got amazing talent. BYU is the new model. They got the new sauce in college basketball. They got the GM. They got the NBA coach. They're playing a fun style. I love Keita, Traore. They have some physical guys. Some would say on this set, dirty. Not going to name names, okay? Some would say BYU a bit dirty. Not going to name names. But they are very physical, and they do play a bit rough around the edges. But I think this is a game where if you're Alabama, you got to match that physicality. Because Alabama this year, Adam, defense has been optional. They want to outscore you. They got to match the physicality of BYU. I think they're going to have their hands full in this game.
Their defense has been trending up in recent weeks, but I think the thing that we don't talk enough about is Alabama is so talented, but this isn't necessarily the type of roster Nate Oates wants. He wants a great shooting team and a great shooting four-man. He's playing two bigs with Cliff and then Grant Nelson at the 4 because those are his best players. But it's not the way he wants to play, so he's compensating by playing really, really fast. The point that Hunter made, which I think is spot on here, is that's the way BYU plays, and BYU has a little more shooting in this one. As far as Yegor goes, because it's Yegor, the up and down game allows him to showcase his passing ability. And when it comes to ramifications for the draft, this could be a breakout game for, let me say it again, Yegor to showcase his floor vision, because I think he's the best passer in the draft.
Okay. We'll see about that tonight against Mark Sears.
We're going to get predictions here?
Yeah, we're getting there. BYU won the A.J. Devanza sweepstakes, the #1 ranked player in 2025. Considered Alabama, ultimately chose BYU. Adam, BYU won the recruiting battle. Do they have enough to win the game tonight against Alabama?
I think they had enough to win the first one, and I think they have enough to win the second one. Remember, BYU, everybody said they were going to lose to VCU.
I said that. I said that.
I did.
Yeah, everybody picked them. Not this side of the table was right.
I had BYU getting here. I have BYU losing.
As did I. I said this morning, I think they can get to an Elite Eight. I think they match up better with Alabama than people want to give them credit for, because they can play with pace, because they can shoot the ball, and they can go for 100. Hunter said it, and he's right. They could score 100 points tonight. Everybody talks about pace and space and positionless basketball, and it's all marketing BS. But at BYU, they really play that way. I think BYU's got a very legit chance tonight. I'm going with them.
You agree?
I'm picking BYU to win this game. I know that they're underdog in this spot, but, basketball is all about matchups. Michigan is still playing. They had a bad matchup in the first round. Just UC San Diego couldn't make any shots. If they would have shot the ball halfway decent, bye-bye. Michigan would have been bye-bye. St. Mary's, I thought if they could have made a shot or two, they had an excellent shot to knock off Alabama. Unfortunately, St. Mary's doesn't know what the three-point line looks like, and they couldn't make a shot, and then they couldn't win the game. So I think Alabama is ripe. I just think this is they're ripe. They were my preseason pick to win it all because I trusted their roster. Obviously, Mark Sears was still there. Grant Nelson was still there. I've watched them all year, and I think they're ripe. Like if Maryland was playing Alabama, oh boy, I would love Maryland in this spot. I think BYU can go toe-to-toe. I think they have a legit shot to win this game, and I'm picking them.
Before I make my pick, I want to know why Adam called them dirty.
You called BYU dirty?
I don't think that's the colleague you were referring to. But you tell me.
Hakeem, God. What? I'll say this: I wasn't allowed to make a bracket because of NCAA compliance rules. But my mental bracket in my head had BYU going to the Final Four. I think they're that good.
Wow.
The way they play is
dirty.
No, I think they shoot a lot of threes. They are very
incidental content. He didn't mean that.
I think they're a very high-powered offense, and I think this is the exact draw they wanted. And I think this is the exact game they wanted. And like we said, Alabama doesn't play defense all the time, and I think that'll really hurt them in this game.
Can I put a bow on it with this? Last 6 weeks, BYU is 11-1. According to Evan Maya, that's a top 4 team in the country over the course of the last 6 weeks, and that is ahead of Alabama. They're playing better than anyone. The only team to beat them is Houston, and Houston plays an almost exact opposite style of the way Alabama does.
I'll say this. I feel like, they have a lot to owe the Kansas Jayhawks because I feel like they got a lot of swagger after our game. So I feel like
Did they beat you this year?
Yeah. They beat us pretty bad. And I feel like that we gave them the confidence that they needed to really find themselves.
Did you, after that game, like you go in the locker room, I've lost a lot. I went to Northwestern. We lost a lot, okay? So after the game, we'd go in the locker room and be like, well, that team was pretty good. We played Illinois when they were #1 in the country. They lost the national championship game. I remember just wanting to mail a score in because they were going to hammer us, and they did. 84-48. I remember.
Who was the coach?
Bill Self. That's not true. Bruce Weber. Bill was there the year before, 2 years before that. When you went into the locker room after the BYU loss, did you look around at your teammates and go, well, the teams were pretty good? Or did you just say you had a bad night?
It was tough because at the time, they were kind of a middle-of-the-pack Big 12 team, and, they weren't ranked. And so we were like, whoa, like we need to figure something out. But then, as the games went on, it was like, they're a pretty good team. They're a pretty good team.
I'm taking Alabama tonight.
Somebody's got to.
You guys are on BYU. I'm taking Alabama.
Nate Oates was a high school coach 12 years ago.
What I saw late in that BYU-Wisconsin game gave me no confidence in the Cougars. Late. They were shaky late. They were shaky.
Yeah, but you also said that about their football team. Is that
I did. You're right. I did.
You have this whole BYU.
No. But then what happened to their football team? They lost.
You want to know something?
I kind of been right. And there's nothing against BYU.
They got to mail you a Cougar dog.
Just saying. We're ball knowers up here. BYU looking for its first Elite Eight since 1981. Alabama looking to get back to the Final Four for a second year.
That was like a therapy session for Hunter Dickinson. Let's get the guy a scotch. He's 21.
He is. We can have some. We can have some beverages.
Can we? Yeah. I didn't see any bosses.
Alabama and BYU tipping off. Just a matter of moments, not 9:39 Eastern Time, 7:09 Eastern Time from Newark, New Jersey. When this game goes final, full highlights and reaction. We'll have a report from Newark. Matt Norlander will join us here on CBS Sports HQ. Coming up, happy opening day. We'll take you around the big leagues on one of the best days of the year. Next on Game Day Scoreboard.